masterful game on it before, so this makes sense to me. If you're taking it second, that's fine, but I still think Nocturne is just too strong to ignore.
You can even take the Lee Sin and give it over to Creme, but they are going to stick with the combo that they went with in game number 1 at very least. I do want to just give a tiny bit of context to people at home. There was a sign there in the crowd that says Bin YYDS. YYDS is actually kind of like the Chinese version of GOAT. It's like, it means eternal god, and it's somewhat of a meme. It can be used negatively, but it's like very, very high praise for a player. So just a random bit of Chinese memes for you there. Lee Sin and Sylas taken once again. Suning just rinse and repeating the composition from game 1.
Yeah, and there's no reason to change anything. I do think this third pick might change for Creme if we're seeing him prioritized here. Well, no, looks like they're going the exact same direction. So OMG clearly thinking this wasn't necessarily a draft issue, at least not so far, but they have finally made a change, and that is banning away the Kalista from Huanfeng, so we won't see that one again. We did see Thresh, Varus banned away last time, so it'll be interesting to me which of those I leave open, or if they go in a completely different direction. Remember, you did say about Huanfeng being a Draven player, so potential avenue for that to come in. Suning will ban away that Kai'Sa. To remind you, they banned away Kai'Sa Samira in the last draft, so we're trying to force Abel onto that Ezreal. We could see a similar thing come out here.
Yeah, this last ban from OMG is going to be a curious one, because there is an argument to be made to move away from the Ezreal yourselves. Play something like Aphelios Thresh, for example. Play weak side, just play under tower. Could be an option for them. Alistar taken away from On. Literally just banning the bot lane from last game away from Suning. Yeah. But I feel like Suning had options. They didn't need the Alistar.
I feel like the Alistar was enabled by the Kalista. It gives that extra layer from engage, and also Alistar actually has quite a weak level 1, but you saw them find priority because Kalista's so strong. I don't think it needed to be banned with Kalista down. I think you could have banned Varus or Thresh. They are going to lock in the Thresh. That makes sense to me. I mean, they're hovering it, but I would assume if you're leaving it open, it's so that you can take it, because I think if you give it over to Suning, it causes a lot of issues. That said, there is other options available, but I wouldn't like to pick Leona with Thresh open. Very easy to just flay her out of the Zenith Blade for the side of Suning.
We'll see where OMG go. It feels like they're a little unsure themselves. Leona locked in. Now, there are a couple of options for Suning. You could go for another aggressive bot lane, something like Draven, etc., but you don't necessarily know what you're up against, so that can be risky. But as you said, Thresh is available here. You could just go for Thresh Jinx, for example. Huanfeng is an amazing Jinx player. We've seen a ton of it from him this split already. Feels like, in fact, it is his most played champion, 60% win rate so far. Feels like a very, very comfortable lock-in in my mind. Yep. But Aphelios, similar story, right? You still have that super safe bot lane. You still have a lot of scaling out of your AD carry.
Yeah, and it's so good into all these melee champions, because if you manage to survive the initial engage, you get so much value. If you have Infernum, if you have Runans, you just absolutely shred everything that comes near. So it makes things very difficult for OMG. They're going to have to prioritize the Aphelios. But then again, as we said before, if Huanfeng goes down, there's still Angel, there's still Bin, still a value. We are seeing the Galio come out. So I have seen this matchup a couple of times, specifically into Leona. It works well into these melee champions because of the taunt. You know, if they dive onto the Aphelios, you can AoE taunt everyone. They're forced to attack you. And in the matchup against Leona, if Leona Zenith Blades in, she needs to auto you to land that Q stun. Galio can taunt her. She then ends up stunning the Galio instead, and allows the Aphelios just to start pumping damage out.
And on top of that, like in terms of the isolated 2v2, it makes sense. But in terms of the grand scheme of the game, like this whole squad from OMG wants to group up and slam onto one person. Galio just immediately ults whoever they go on to, and the entire play is completely disrupted. Big AoE knock up onto everyone, big AoE taunt onto everyone. Feels like this pick is so good at just ruining what OMG want to do. And the same story for the Aphelios, right? He loves compositions that want to run at him. This bot lane from Suning feels like it completely counters the whole comp from OMG.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, OMG's adaptation was to change the bot lane matchup. I think Suning are still fine with this one. I don't think they're really too concerned. It's going to have to be different play from Suning. The draft hasn't changed enough. I know that Ezreal's not going to be punished as hard in the laning phase here, but I don't think that's enough to simply say that OMG win this one. we need to see a bit more coming out from Aki in particular. I know that Diana's going to be weaker pre-6 still, but if you can make something happen in the lanes, potentially there's an avenue. Perhaps one of the adaptations you can make is where you start pathing from. Both junglers last game went bot to top, and as a result, Lee Sin was always aligned with Diana on the map, which heavily limits what you can do. You know, contesting scuttles, even ganking, you're super scared of the Lee Sin showing up. So maybe if they can find an avenue to path in a different direction, then we could see Aki make something more happen.
Yeah, a lot of pressure on Aki, and once again, for the side of OMG, it is very much about the level 6 spike. That is going to be a huge moment in the game for them once more. Kind of curious that they went for the Leona over the Rel again. With still having this Yasuo available, the Rel having another setup for Creme to be able to use his ulti could have been nice as opposed to this Leona, but maybe feeling like they needed a bit more frontline available to them, so going with a tankier support instead. But we'll see if it changes things for OMG. Now, Dan, let's talk early game, because game number 1, we had a pretty slow early game from both squads, but Suning pretty much taking all objectives. We did see the second Herald, I think it was, or maybe it was the first, go the way of OMG in the end, and Abel managed to get 3 plates off the back of that. But otherwise, it was pretty much just down to Suning getting all of the Drakes, all of the Heralds, etc. in the early game. Can they still do the same thing when they don't have a Kalista in the bottom side?
The thing is, they're still going to have priority on the bot lane. They're not going to be able to just like beat Abel up, but they're still going to be pushing the lane in. They're still going to have the advantage. And I don't think the way the early game plays out changes unless, again, Aki needs to do something different, needs to find better opportunities, because really the only lane he's going to have priority in is that mid lane from Creme. But the Yasuo is not the best in these early skirmishes before he has his ultimate available. Obviously, we'd love to be working with a minion wave. So I think finding an avenue to just not match up against SofM is probably the best thing. And I like this. This invade comes in, ward on the red buff. If SofM starts on the bot side, OMG will know, and that means Aki can, you know, path top the bot instead and just basically keep himself away from SofM. That's the important thing here.
Well, SofM is going to do the same thing. In fact, it's Angel that does it in the end, as SofM moves over towards, by the looks of things, his bottom side to start things off. So we will have opposite clears here from our junglers. Both junglers will also know what the opponent is doing. So pretty standard stuff here, but a different take from OMG comparatively to game 1. And Suning looking for control of the lane once more.
Yeah, and that could be enough just to change this early game up quite substantially. We should see Aki able to hopefully secure a Scuttle Crab as a result of this. Obviously, he didn't get either last time. It was SofM taking top Scuttle. Huanfeng and Aux managed to move from lane and take the second Scuttle. So this definitely at least sets things up to be a bit different. And again, now you can actually impact your lanes a bit more, because if Lee Sin's on the same side of the map as you, anytime you go for a gank, you're really concerned about the fact that maybe you're going to get counter ganked, maybe you're going to get matched, you end up losing that. But if you're on the other side, you can more freely go for those.
God.
I mean, speaking of lanes, this one is not going well for New.
Yeah, New is getting his ass kicked in the top lane right now. Bin just getting free auto after free auto onto him. And look, we know Bin is a guy that will dominate laning phases anyway, but when you're getting a level 1 that is that dominant, it becomes very difficult for New to get into the game. He's already burned through 2 of his corrupting potion stacks, so it's not going to get any easier in that 1v1. Bin doing amazingly, and it's because of that ward we talked about before, right? Bin knows that Aki ain't coming top. Drops a ward in the tri-brush. That's the only window for the gank, right? Now he knows that Aki's going to be pathing towards the bot side. He has all the freedom in the world to just bully New.
Yeah, and I mean, Nocturne normally is the one taking priority in a lot of lanes, but Bin on this Gwen has such a good level 1, just can't really contest. And speaking of priority, I was talking about the bot lane before, about how I'd expect Huanfeng and Aux to find priority, just the Aphelios into Ezreal matchup, but actually, OMG are the ones who found that first initial push, and they'd be able to take them a bit under tower, so does mean that, again, Aki has a little bit more freedom to go for this bot scuttle now. I think this might have been actually a smart decision from Suning. Again, they know their jungler's pathing away. If they push the lane out, they're exposed for a gank. Now that they're kind of just in front of the tower, there's no vulnerabilities on this side of the map. You can see Angel, he shoved in. The bot lane of Suning shoved in. Aki will get the scuttle, but there's not much you can do after that.
Yeah, it does feel like we're going to see just Aki having to reset once more and continue with his life. But it's going to be a ward onto the chickens at very least. So he'll know when SofM is going for his chickens once more. But it is just going to be even Stevens in the jungle for now as Aki moves back up to his Raptors because he started on the Raptors instead of the buff. So he does get a bit of a nice timing, gets them straight off of the reset. And it looks like he might just go for a second clear off the bat instead of going for the reset right now.
Yeah, and I think even though he has that ward down the Raptors, if you're not resetting to pick up items, you kind of know he's not going to contest that one. SofM's backed and pick up a pickaxe. Ooh. That difference in itemization makes it very hard to take a fair fight, but we do see him, as we know him to do, leaning towards that top lane. I think the plan is just to shove the wave in so New can get a reset, but if Bin overextends, I'm certain they will take the opportunity for a gank.
And let's be honest, Bin is the kind of top laner that overextends. He's happy to take the 1v1 in any given situation, but for now, it's not going to happen, and Aki might just be wasting his time. Cold. Oh, the knockup from On was just millimeters away from getting Cold in the knockup. That would have been beautiful. Gravitum available. He's waiting on the cooldown. There's a cleanse out from Abel. It's just going to be the wave taken in the end and a couple of plates as well. But this pressure from Suning in the bottom side and 2 games in a row now where we just have to compliment the 2v2 from Suning.
Yeah, it's been so well set up. So we talked about the pathing difference between the junglers. Suning could have taken priority level 1. With an Aphelios Galio against an Ezreal, you can do that. Instead, they let OMG push in. It even actually put them a little bit behind in HP initially, but by doing that, they built up this massive wave off a freeze. They pushed this stacked wave in, and that is when SofM's pathing towards the bot side. Angel moves into the fog of war as well, and then OMG have to back away. There's no choice in that situation. They have to leave, and even though Suning haven't won a fight, there's now a massive gold lead between these two AD carries of 350 already in this game, thanks to those 2 plates, thanks to the massive wave that was denied from Abel. So really intelligent play for the bot lane of Suning. They set this up from the level 1.
And now on the reset, On looks for a roam to the mid lane. Angel is here, has last breath if On could get a knockup. And actually, that's a point I never thought about with the Galio. Aux, it's just hit me like a lightning bolt. It's hit me like a Galio from the sky. On uses his ult onto someone. Angel steals the last breath. And off of the Galio knockup, last breaths, all of OMG. They have
there's the
a better version of the OMG combo that OMG has.
Yeah, it kind of feels bad with Yasuo in particular when, you know, the enemy team can have better setups than you. And I mean, OMG have to be so careful of that because we've seen, particularly last game, how much Angel was able to do with stolen ultimates. The Moonfall, another one where you got a ton of value out of him.
It does feel like Angel might just be the better Yasuo in this one. He was the better Diana in game number 1. This Sylas pick, honestly, when you look at the way this series has gone, maybe this is what OMG needed to ban. Maybe this is the change they needed to make the draft. Because Angel, I feel like, was a little underappreciated in game number 1. We certainly weren't talking that much about Angel. And I feel like that's often the case with Angel. He kind of goes under the radar, but he really does impact the game, and he really does have some really profound team fights for himself. So I'm excited to see what he can do once again on this Sylas, which has become one of the comfort picks for him. When you think back to 2020, it was like Angel was this Azir Kassadin 2 trick, right? That was what people always thought about with Angel. It feels like he has changed his identity as a mid laner, and it's exciting to witness.
Yeah, and it's working really well for them because as much as he's getting shoved in by the Yasuo, he's not really falling behind at all. He's equal in CS, and it scales so well into these team fights. The healing and the value you get from that Kingslayer just really delivers. So very comfortable position for Suning once more. Top lane, we've seen the advantage for Bin. Jungle's kept relatively even, but bot lane once more is ahead for Suning and all of that early setup. And now we do have those ultimates coming in, and we highlight this in game 1. Similar scenario in game 2. The level 6 is a big spike for this Diana and this Yasuo. Now is the time where you can start to make things happen. You can see they're leaning towards the top lane already. The Bin will just back away, so nothing to be found there. Very much respectful of the Diana and the Yasuo moving into the fog of war there.
Yeah, look at this. The whole squad arrives from Suning, and OMG are like, all right, maybe we don't dive. Maybe we don't try and opt into an even fight underneath their tower. Wise move from OMG in the end, but once again, really intelligent from Suning to deny these plays. Creme getting knocked up and taunted. On just completely ruining that one for him. Feels like On is having a bit of a resurgence here for Suning. This series specifically, he's looking really good.
I think that's the thing, is that we praised SofM in game 1, and he by all means was the MVP. But so often he was joined by his support. Whenever he's going for these aggressive moves, whenever he's going for these engages, you saw, you know, the kick into the Alistair bounce south, and On will look there. But I think as soon as he saw the Leona, he was like, okay, never mind. I'm not as interested in this as I was a millisecond ago when I flashed in. So he just backs out. A good move by Cole to cover them. And now SofM's found new.
And he's just going to look for a 1v1 with the enemy top laner. There's not many junglers that are that confident. 3,000 on the Herald. SofM arriving. This is going to be a fight here. Cole goes in. Here's the Galio ulti to try and get some knockups, but it was interrupted. The moonfall from Angel. There's a last breath, though. Maybe this is Creme's moment. He goes back in, but he's taken down. And Bin looking to clean up for a little bit more. On got denied, but it doesn't matter. He bought time. He got a spell shield, and Cole gets hit by the Sonic Wave. SofM is having the series of his split so far.
He just can't miss, and Bin and SofM able to clean up. But Angel, the absolute MVP of that fight, stealing away the Moonfall, and it just feels like he's getting so much more value from these ultimates than OMG are. They're just giving them over to him, and he's having a great time with them.
And look at the tower plates in this bottom lane. Huanfeng in this entire time has just been hammering away. It's close enough that a Zig Satchel would finish that one off. Second of the look is... Yeah, so Galio got interrupted.
Yeah, Aki uses the Moonfall there to interrupt the Galio ult, but then we see Angel come in and gets the 4-man ultimate. Everyone connecting with that one. And, you know, just really well played coming out. And now SofM, again, this is what we expect of him. Aggressive play in the enemy jungle, contesting camps. He will deny that blue buff away and this Gromp, and 1-4 Ong is there with him. And Bin, he's proxying in the top lane. Things not looking good for you right now.
Oh, Aki's in the bottom side of the map. Yeah, cool. I'll take the next wave then. No worries. I'm not scared of new, that's for sure. I'm 20 CS up. I've got a couple of kills.
You know what's the worst thing? Is I came into this. I mean, I even said this before the series. Nocturne is so broken. This is the only time you'll see Nocturne at this level. Strybreaker being nerfed next patch. New hasn't made Nocturne look broken. I think Bin has made it look balanced with his performance so far on the Gwen.
You know, we were talking about OMG being the anglerfish, right? About them swimming around searching for prey. But right now, it's SofM. He's a shark in the waters, just hunting for anyone that steps into that jungle. Takes away the Scuttlecrab, basically one-shots it. As the Drake will spawn, you can see Angel moving towards the bottom side of the map as well. Huanfeng has been swapped to the mid lane here at this point. But remember, if OMG commit anything down to this bottom side to try and contest the Drake, Bin is just going to slam Herald top. And there's a very real possibility that he could look for more than just one tower with that one. There's 4 plates still on this top lane tower, but I don't think they'll last for long. Aki commits to the Drake here. SofM is around as Angel pushes in from the bottom side. Sonic Wave across, but SofM just using it to buy space here. Dragon will reset by the looks of things. OMG might look to restart this one off. Here's a taunt in the mid lane. Look at the CC chain. Creme. He doesn't get to play League of Legends, and SofM with another Sonic Wave. It's on to Abel here. The Arcane Shift comes on through. SofM on the front line has been looking for a 1v1 with New, but it's New winning out for now at very least. The snip not coming through just yet. Now Drake started once more by Suning.
And it's just, again, Suning picking off a key member from OMG with Yasuo down. That combo doesn't come to fruition, and so as a result, OMG are forced to back away. Didn't want to take an unfavorable fight in terms of numbers, especially when they already are so far behind in terms of gold. It just kind of feels like more of the same from game 1 so far. Really seeing a massive amount of pressure coming out from Suning, and once more, Huanfeng picking up that shield bow first item, that extra level of survivability, this time on the Aphelios compared to the Callisto. But already I'm just thinking about how these team fights are going to play out. OMG need to start finding numbers advantages. You need to look for isolated members, because I think even this early 5v5s might start feeling a little bit tricky. when you already see, you know, Huanfeng with that shield bow and just the gold lead in general.
Okay, now into the mid lane. This Herald gets dropped in the mid lane by Bin. I was expecting Bin to use that selfishly, but actually giving it over to Huanfeng. And I think maybe it was just running out of time in this one. Is he just gonna...
Not to the time of the Herald, but the time for the plates, because they're just
plates,
tied up now. So I think they needed it to go down. But I like it being used on the mid tower. It means if they get the second Herald, the tower is gone, and that opens up the map quite a bit. We can see Bin now really happy in a side lane, a very long extended lane, and you know, New was doing some decent trading back and forth, but for the most part, very hard to answer this Gwen. He's gonna shove that bot lane in pretty deep, and I think he's gonna go for the crash here. Someone from OMG has to answer this, so they want to make something happen now.
That's maybe the most valuable ward of On's entire career right there. Angel was in so much trouble. On's like, there you go. There's everyone. In goes Angel to set up the fight. SofM to follow it up as well. Gets the kick onto Aki. Forces the flash away from him. No kills just yet. In comes Leona. On. Slams down to knock everyone up to try and buy time. SofM falls though. This could be the fight from OMG. 2 picks already. True Shot Barrage comes wide. But now Cold's in trouble. Bin looking for the 1v4, looking to turn this play around. Takes one, looks for Aki as well. The snip, not quite enough. One more auto does the trick. Double for Bin. But he will trade 3 for 2 in the end. OMG still get themselves a fight.
And Suning didn't need to take that fight. There was no reason to go for it. They kind of just got a little bit antsy in that one and pushed forwards. If you look at the setup prior to it, Bin was pushing in the bot lane. No one from OMG was answered, and OMG were the ones who wanted the fight. That's why they set up the Death Rush, but Suning engaged without the real setup. Their Aphelios, who's mega fed, isn't here. Bin is actually quite late to teleport in this situation. They're going super aggressive, but the setup isn't truly there, and as a result, OMG are able to answer. It's a 4v3 initially before Bin joins, and they managed to take 2 out. So we do eventually see Bin cleaning up. Just, you know, this Gwen is so strong and getting 2 kills. But if Bin hadn't been able to do this, this fight would have been a pretty big disaster for Suning.
It really would. If Bin just hadn't had Gwen, honestly, this would have been a disaster for Suning. But luckily, this is season 11, and he got that champion. So it is what it is. Bin managing to get every single ounce of value out of this pick, as we know that he always will. It's his most played of the split. Definitely an incredibly strong Gwen player. And now we are getting towards a similar point as we did in game number 1. Even though OMG won that fight, they are still 3,000 gold down. We've got 2 items in for Huanfeng. Once he gets an Infinity Edge, he's going to be a nightmare to deal with. Angel already with the Everfrost. SofM going the same build as game number 1. Having the Gore Drinker first. I doubt he's going to go GA second this game. I would anticipate that he probably changes that up at least, but we're getting towards the 2 item marks is the point I'm making here for Suning. It feels like OMG still a way to go before they can win out these fights.
Yeah, for sure. And it's kind of like there's so much emphasis on like blowing up Huanfeng in these fights. But again, Bin is still such a massive threat. And if you burn too many ultimates on killing the Aphelios, you know, it raises questions about whether you'll be able to continue the fight from there. We do see Suning applying pressure on the top side. I like the fact that OMG have left Creme here. He's pushing down the other lanes. So they will trade 1 for 1 in terms of towers here. Cross map's always good in this situation when you are down in gold, where you are concerned about your fighting power. So we'll just be able to take that one. I do think OMG should be looking to reset now, though. Obviously, you can see Suning moving back on the map, and they're setting up for this dragon. They're actually a little bit late for this dragon. Would like to see them reset sooner for it, but it honestly doesn't matter too much because I think they feel confident to push in and take control of the area regardless. OMG have got some wards down, but the Herald will get thrown mid. OMG have to respond, and as a result, they'll be able to push mid in and then fan out into the river.
Kind of a weird Herald though, right? When the tier 1 is already taken, just slamming the Herald mid when you can't really press on the tower. I guess it buys you space for the Drake, right? But I feel like Suning realistically could have just muscled their way into the river. I don't think they were struggling for prio, you know?
You know what it was? SofM, he wanted his ward back for ward hops. He's like, I don't need this Herald.
That's probably true, honestly. Herald is a nerf to Lee Sin in a big way.
Yeah, I honestly, I feel like with the value of the tier 2 towers in the side lane, the extra 250 gold, I 100% agree they could have got a better Herald usage. But they are just going to be able to pick up the dragon here. And I think, you know, we've seen these couple of moments in this game where Suning maybe didn't make the optimal decisions, but they're still pretty far ahead. We do see Huanfeng picked up the Ninja Tabby as well, so cutting down a lot of that threat damage. But OMG, once more, looking for those side lane plays. New's actually in trouble, though.
Yeah, New's in a lot of trouble because On is going to be coming in from the flank as well. He is on it like a car bonnet. There's a kill for Angel. Beautifully done by the Galio to set things up.
Yeah, really nice play. And honestly, New just a little bit disrespectful. I like the cross-map pushing, but the whole point of it is you have to be across the map from other people and need to respect when Suning start moving in, taking control. We see in the bot lane, Bin has pushed this big wave into the tier 2. OMG need to answer that, so Abel will move over. And that means Suning could push out a little bit deeper and look to contest. But I think they will just use this opportunity to go for a reset, get back on the map. Isn't really anything they need to prioritize right now. Dragon obviously just been taken. Baron coming up, but that's not really on the cards for now.
Well, you say that. There isn't Aphelios, so... and also, this is the LPL, so we do always just have to have a little bit of a side eye on the Baron, but one random... I'll give you a random lore-based fact, Aux. How's that?
Hit me with it.
To buy some time while we wait for things. Suning currently have the only 2 Petrosite adjacent champions in the entire game on their squad. Galio made a Petrosite. Angel... in his recall animation, Sylas has Petrosite on the end of his chains. Here we go. Moonfall comes on through. Big fight coming in. On with the disengage on the ultimate. SofM is kind of stuck in the back of the fight, though, but he's got to stop watching. Creme goes down. Huanfeng arrives, but the Moonlight Vigil doesn't quite connect as Bin tries to chase Abel out, and SofM goes way too deep on that one. Huanfeng is looking for a 1v3. Huanfeng has gone absolutely mental. I don't know what he expected on that one, but he's gone down. And now OMG, they get a little bit of a bounty on this one. It's Bin's turn to go for the 1v4 now. As he jumps forward, TP from Angel to look for a little more as well. Cold dodges away from the Everfrost, but you can't dodge the chains. Gets taken down in the end. And Suning, I mean, they somehow won that fight, but I'm going to be totally honest, I'm not sure that they deserve to.
Yeah, I'm not convinced by that one. Huanfeng really feeling himself on the Aphelios there, flashing into 3 people, but it kind of worked a bit. Not his play, but team fight in general. Suning get away with that one, but I am definitely not convinced. I mean, the start, it's a little bit messy. Suning aren't all there. I think the critical thing to open this one. So, although it's a nice plan,
well, there's no need
Suning,
to insult the box.
So Suning don't find the greatest start to the fight. They do get Creme off the back of it, but then we see OMG able to respond, and they start chasing the jungle, and people overextend. SofM dives forward, and then we see this play from Huanfeng, which...
No, you're right. You're right, actually. Suning aren't all there. It's the only explanation.
Yeah, that one was
what went through Huanfeng's head there.
That one was a doozy, especially as the Diana had just hit him with the Q. I was just like, you know, limit testing. We'll call it limit testing. It's a nice way to package it.
Yeah, we'll go with that. We'll see if that one flies. Baron is on the cards here. Both teams fighting for vision at this point. There is something painfully ironic about the blind monk being the one fighting for vision, but we'll move on. As I do want to highlight On here, because I do feel like On has been maybe the highlight player of Suning across the course of today, especially in this game number 2. I feel like he's playing exceptionally well on this Galio, the reason I'm highlighting him is, you know, he's not having this mind-blowing performance or anything like that, but when it's a player like On who's been criticized so heavily and has been the reason for a lot of the issues that Suning have had across the course of this split, it's really, really good to see him having such a stable performance across the course of a split, across the course of a series, sorry.
He's been really consistent. I think that's the thing. He's been doing his job, fulfilling his role, finding windows to move around the map, going up with his jungler. Even that gank we saw before and knew, it just feels like he's doing a really solid job. And yes, he's not the most flashy player. We don't see him doing the big insects like SofM, but he's filling his role. And as you said, really good to see based on, you know, just how the start split was a little bit rougher. Now, Dragon in 30 seconds. OMG there first. And they are setting up a little bit of a death rush here, but I think Suning would kind of just opt into this one. And just, yeah, they're not really scared of a death rush.
Oh, there's a solar flare going onto gold. That's going to set up for a singular chain lash. Not bad, not bad. Big fight there for Suning. The paranoia comes out from New. It's not really going to be followed up on either. Both teams toying with the idea of a skirmish, but just going to be using ults for the sake of using ults for now, at very least. Bin buying himself space, though, looking for an opportunity to go in as SofM gets a Sonic Wave in. This is going to be an important Drake. It'd be sole point for Suning if they're going to be able to get this one for themselves. And you do have to feel they're stronger right now. 3,500 gold lead. A Moonlight Vigil could turn everything around. Look at Huanfeng's weapons right now. Has Infernum, has SofM. He's going to be jumped on by the Moonfall. There's True Shot Barrage as well. In comes Galio to try and save the day. There's a knockup. There's space bought for Aphelios as Bin just takes everyone out. Him and Angel against the world. And there's nothing that OMG could do about it. Easy Drake for Suning.
Yeah, and a critical error comes in. I mean, a big thing to mention is Huanfeng had no flash from that play earlier. OMG should have killed him by all rights, but one thing is that the paranoia was not available, and the second was that Creme didn't actually connect onto him with the ultimate. We got to see it in the replay, but the Moonfall came in, but the last breath was only onto a different target. It didn't actually connect onto Huanfeng. You can see him walking away, and as a result, he survives, manages to dish out a ton of damage in return, and we see Suning able to find the cleanup. It's a bit heartbreaking for OMG because the idea was correct and Aki was finding the right window, because killing Huanfeng by all means without the flash, definitely the target you should be looking for there.
Yeah, good effort on trying to get onto Huanfeng, but it just doesn't happen from OMG
So
in the meantime.
watch here, and the ult comes in, but the last breath is only onto the Galio. It doesn't actually connect onto Huanfeng. So Huanfeng didn't get caught by the Yasuo ult, and as a result is able to survive, dish out a ton of damage and lifesteal. And with those two weapons, he deals a ton of AoE damage to the Runans as well. So a critical error from Creme there on the Yasuo. Didn't hit the right target with the ult.
Did not hit the right target, and it's a disaster from that point. Those are the Petricite blocks I was talking about before for the Sylas. Random extra fact, his passive is called Petricite Burst. You know, the augmented auto attacks? There you go. We're learning more about Demacian Stone.
Yeah, you got a bit of a Petricite obsession. It feels like maybe.
I'm a petrophile. What can I say? We are going to see On engaged on here. Could be in a bit of trouble, but he is damn tanky on that Galio. Aftershock doing wonders in that fight, and now it's Creme that's in trouble. Guess where Bin is? Heading him off. The snip comes through as Bin looks to get into the middle of the fray. Easy kills for Suning now. And they're just caught out without their pants here. OMG just getting eradicated one by one. A double kill comes through for Huanfeng as Bin just chases Aki out of the fray. There's not much more to say about that one. Just OMG caught out of position and Suning punish.
Yeah, OMG, I think they wanted to pick. They knew that a 5v5 they just don't win, but all 5 ultimates burned and On doesn't even die. I mean, I think that kind of shows how desperate things are at this point. SofM.
Look at this. Dragon Rage isn't available, but it doesn't matter. Angel's the one to grab it in the end. Spins around in the Zhonyas, and they'll take the game. Suning do it in style. It's 27 minutes as they finish this one off, and Huanfeng rails everyone on the fountain. They want a little bit more as a celebration. They've had a bit of an iffy split so far, and it's time for a bit of a win for them. Bin dodges away from the True Shot Barrage. The Nexus will go down. And it's Suning to take themselves a 2-0 over the struggling OMG.
And it's convincing. By all means, they made it very clear they were the stronger team. Got to give a lot of praise to everyone across the board, honestly. Particularly SofM and On, as we said, this support jungle duo doing a lot of work for the team. Very much making these proactive plays and allowed their entire lineup just to flourish in this series that we thought was going to be a lot closer than it was.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little disappointed in what we got to see from OMG today here, but I have to say I'm not that surprised. Like, the big question for OMG all split has been, what can you do when the assassins that you regularly go to in the mid lane are banned away? We keep on seeing the answer being not a whole lot right now. This Yasuo not really working out, and it has to be said as well, Suning doing a great job of playing around what OMG were going to do. They knew the composition they were going to be going up against, and they drafted around it both times. Game number 1, we saw the GAs and the Zhonyas coming in to be able to survive the burst combo. Game number 2, a bit of a change in the draft, but similar story of being able to outplay. And to be honest, game number 2, Suning were getting a little bit cocky. Like, we saw Huanfeng flashing forward in the jungle. We saw a few shenanigans coming out from SofM. We saw Suning being Suning, right? And you and I especially, Dan, we're fans of any team that has lions on their shirt, right? There's this one other team. They've got 3 of them, I think, that Denmark knows a lot about that team. I forget who they are, but Suning right now today.
I think Goldborg was talking about them, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Goldborg,
I think
Goldborg very interested.
I think he's a big fan because it was something like they want to have lost to the champions. I think that was something. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah. I think, as you said, the champion pool issues for Creme, I'm going to be honest, I don't want to go too heavy on him, but he looked like a little bit of a liability in this series. It felt like, yes, Suning were answering him well, but start of the fight, he was often the target to be picked. That final fight, we saw the dragon, Creme unable to land the ult onto Huanfeng, which was critical. I actually feel like they may have actually potentially at least taken that fight if they'd been able to blow up the Aphelios instantly. So just not a great series, and it's hard to say that about Creme because he has had some really good performances throughout the season so far, but it just feels like banning him out has been a really good answer. And Suning, it feels like they came into this game with a good strategy. They shut down Aki in the jungle. He wasn't able to do too much. They shut down Creme in the team fights, and Huanfeng consistently had a 2v2 advantage in the bot lane. Both games, a massive gold lead built up, and it meant when it got to the team fights, he was a problem that needed to be dealt with, and OMG just weren't able to do so.
Yep, it feels like, and once again, Abel doing a lot of damage across the course of the game, but it doesn't feel like any of it stuck, you know? It doesn't feel like he was able to swing any of these fights. Huanfeng managing to do a good chunk of damage thanks to flashing forward so he could get big Runan's procs across multiple members before going down. Yeah, looking for the DPM.
That's the play.
He saw the interview with Jackie Love. There was an interview with Jackie Love, I think it was yesterday, on the Chinese side, and Jackie was saying, look, the reason we pick the Kog'Maw is as AD carries, you die a lot these days, and with the Kog'Maw, you can get extra damage when you go for the death. So maybe Huanfeng taking inspiration there and maxing out the DPM.
If that had been a Kog'Maw flashing in, getting the damage in, and then dying for the passive, that I really would have respected. But, you know, Aphelios still did the job, still getting the numbers pumping. But, yeah, I think...
All I'm going to say is Huanfeng was trained up on IG Young, okay? Guess which team Jackie Love was on back when Huanfeng was on IG Young? He was on IG winning the World Championship. All I'm saying is there's similarities there. There's comparisons to be made. Sorry, go on. Let's round up this series and stop being just silly here.
Suning, strong performance, and they look like they're going for know what they're doing. They look like they can set up a good plan for the game. They can deliver on it. I feel like we saw a bit more agency than just the opportunistic style. They weren't sort of super aggressive compared to what we've seen for other teams, or maybe in that game too. But I feel like they had a very good idea of what they needed to do and they executed. OMG, a little bit lost. Something to be said for them, but, you know, it's back to the drawing board.
All right. Well, we have Bin as our MVP coming out of that one. Who, I mean, let's be honest, he went full voodoo doll on the Gwen. Really, really great performance out of him. A lot of damage in these fights. A lot of just like... It felt like Bin was on savior duty, right? Where a lot of these fights, SofM was going a little bit crazy. Huanfeng was going a little bit crazy. And it was down to Bin to carry the situations afterwards.
He just became a problem. And it was kind of interesting because I was kind of concerned, what if they try and shut him down? Aki likes to go top a lot, but Bin wasn't challenged by the jungler, and he just had an isolated 1v1, which he loved. He was absolutely dominating this Nocturne matchup, and again, Nocturne really strong on this patch, one of the premier, you know, top laners, junglers, and even mid laners, but it wasn't an answer for Bin on Gwen, and in those team fights, such a massive threat, doing so much damage throughout.
Yeah, it did feel as well like there was an attempt towards that top side from Aki, right? We saw Aki hovering towards the top side a few times, but every time, Suning knew what was going on. Bin actually played very respectfully this game, which is something we don't often get to say, but completely respected when Aki could have been there ganking. So really nicely done by Bin, and a deserved MVP. I do feel like Angel deserves an honorable mention as well in this series, because I think he really stepped up on the Sylas. But without to reduce on my rambling, let's head over to the stage. We've got an interview standing by, and it's the man himself, SofM, to let us know about some of these funky